Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to cut through the noise, really make sense of the entertainment world today. We sift through all that market data, streaming numbers, social buzz, search trends to figure out what's actually making things happen commercially.
And today, we're digging into the latest insights, specifically from the Brighter Path Consultancy. We're looking at what they call the cultural flywheel. It's not just theory, right? It's this measurable loop where maybe a red carpet look or a movie premiere, it just instantly ripples out.
Yeah.
Into merch, into what people are searching for, social media, driving real value.
Right, tracking how that initial attention turns into, actual commercial success.
Yeah.
Proving that the old ways of measuring just looking at TV ratings overnight or the opening box office, they just don't cut it anymore.
No, they really don't. Amplification and conversion, that's the game now. And you see this contrast all the time in the data Brighter Path pulls together. Like, you've got something seemingly niche, maybe high fashion, Jenna Ortega's look, for instance. That one moment generates this huge, measurable commercial impact, almost rivals the big traditional signals sometimes.
And then on the flip side, you have those traditional signals just rewriting the rule book, like that huge boxing match last week, Canelo versus Crawford. It wasn't just big, it literally set a record. The most viewed men's championship fight this century on streaming.
That's it right there. That's the landscape now.
Yeah.
High fashion driving value, massive sports events finding new life on streaming, both creating these huge data spikes, but, through totally different channels.
That really sets the stage. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the red carpet, that immediate attention impact.
Yeah, the Emmys this year. It was almost like a perfect lab experiment for how this attention economy works now. The data makes it super clear. The spotlight doesn't just switch off when the CBS show ends or it drops off Paramount plus Cap. It keeps going.
It becomes this multi-day cultural engine, right?
Yeah, totally. And you see that financial echo immediately. Come Monday morning, bang. Specific search spikes, social media is buzzing, and crucially for marketers, people are actually curious about buying stuff.
So what's driving that immediate conversion? You mentioned fandom crossover.
Precisely. And in fashion, it used to be about, getting your dress in the right magazine. Now, we talk about earned media value, EMV. It tracks the dollar value of the press, the social shares, and importantly, how often people click back to the brand from all that buzz.
And the fashion itself was the catalyst here. So let's talk specifics. Jenna Ortega, right? She's already a huge cultural force. That jeweled Givenchy look, the quote-unquote naked dress, it was everywhere. Reposted constantly, dominated Instagram feeds, global recaps.
Yeah, for days. And it wasn't just, oh, that looks nice. It had serious commercial weight.
Yeah.
That single look. It delivered the highest per-look EMV for Givenchy of the entire night. Think about what that tells a luxury brand. That specific celebrity, that specific look generates a return you can actually quantify. It blows the cost of loaning the dress out of the water.
It's that press coverage combined with her fans just amplifying it organically. It creates this loop.
Exactly. A self-sustaining loop.
But then there was something even more, maybe, disruptive. The K-pop factor. Lisa from BLACKPINK.
Ah, yes. The Lisa effect. It's real. She wore this Barbiecore gown, and suddenly this indie label, Lever Couture, they were global news overnight.
That speed is just incredible.
Yeah, that's the key difference, isn't it? Ortega validates Givenchy, an established giant. Lisa, she basically created global awareness for Lever Couture almost instantly. Her fans are just so dedicated. They seek out, they promote, they amplify everything she touches. Lever Couture became a trending topic purely because of that fan loyalty and speed.
And we can even see the reach with younger audiences. You mentioned Zigazoo.
Yeah, the Gen Alpha platform. They did their own in-app poll, which is fascinating in itself. And who did Gen Alpha pick as best dressed? Unanimously, Lisa.
Wow.
And this is a huge point from the Brighter Path analysis. That K-pop influence, especially with Gen Alpha, it's still seriously under-leveraged by a lot of big U.S. brands and media companies. Gen Alpha, they're setting the trends now. And brands that connect with that, even if it's accidentally like Lever Couture, they get this instant global boost. It's like free, super effective marketing.
That signal from the youngest audience.
Yeah.
That's got to be gold for predicting what's next.
Okay, let's pivot slightly. What about the actual award winners? Do the trophies translate to eyeballs?
Oh, the trophy bump is definitely real. But it's the speed now that's different. Netflix's Adolescence, it jumped right back into the top 10 after its wins. Owen Cooper's historic win, youngest male Emmy winner. That kind of thing is basically the best ad a show can get.
And it wasn't just Netflix, right? HBO Max saw a boost, too. Yeah, The Pit. That dark comedy surged back onto the charts in, over 60 countries. It's not just guessing. The data shows it. Critical acclaim on that big stage, it translates almost instantly into people wanting to watch, even months later.
People want to see what all the fuss is about, what the industry validated.
Exactly. And for brands tied to this, the critical moment is when someone goes from watching the show or seeing the red carpet look to actually searching for something related. This is where being retail ready is everything. That Monday morning search data, it was incredibly specific.
Give us some examples. What were people actually typing into Google?
Okay, so top queries weren't generic. There were things like Lever Couture, Givenchy Emmys, and really precisely Selena Gomez red dress. People knew exactly what they were looking for.
And not just the dresses, right? Beauty, jewelry.
Absolutely. Selena Gomez's appearance created this whole buzz around her makeup. Huge spike in searches for rare beauty products tied to her look. And jewelry, too. Bulgari, Tiffany & Co. The brand's stylists credited people were searching, what's that piece? Specific searches like Bulgari Serpenti or for particular Tiffany necklaces.
So literally every visual element is a potential click, a potential sale, and different platforms play different roles in spreading that. Yeah.
For sure. We looked at that. Instagram is kind of the visual archive, right? Great photos, people saving looks for later, X or Twitter. That's the real-time chaos, the commentary, the memes, the arguments, super fast, super volatile. But TikTok, that's the global engine, the get ready with me videos, the fan edits. They just explode virally, cross-language barriers, huge growth driver.
And the traditional media, the articles next day, still important.
Still crucial, actually, especially for that EMV calculation. They're the ones who often officially concern the designer IDs, the jewelry specifics. That fuels the search loop properly. So the takeaway for brands is clear. First, get the details out fast, tag to look, name the designer quick, accelerate that search loop. And second, seriously consider tapping into those crossover fandoms, especially K-pop. If you're not ready when those fans start searching, you're just leaving money on the table. Simple as that.
Okay, so moving from that super fast, personalized red carpet economy, let's look at the big screen. Theatrical releases. We're seeing that same idea of eventizing things, but obviously on a different scale.
Yeah, the basic patterns are still there, but they're really shaped by the genre now, and frankly, by the ambition of the film itself.
Like anime, for instance. We saw Demon Slayer do huge numbers.
Huge numbers. Flew past $400 million worldwide. That's massive.
Yeah.
But just as expected, it had that really sharp drop in the second week. It's that classic front-loaded pattern we see with big anime releases.
Why is it so front-loaded? What drives that?
It really comes down to the core fandom. They are intensely committed. They go opening weekend, multiple times even, partly to avoid spoilers, partly just to be part of that initial wave. It's all mobilized online. Pre-sales are huge. So you get this massive initial spike, but then it's harder to sustain that momentum with the, the broader, more casual audience in the following weeks.
Makes sense. Whereas something like Jordan Peele's Him that landed pretty much where expected.
Yeah, solid performance, right in line with projections. He has such a strong director brand in that genre. The audience knows what they're getting. The performance is more predictable.
But if a film doesn't hit that event feel, the market can be tough. Sony found that out with a big, bold, beautiful journey, right? Despite the stars.
Oof, yeah. Margot Robbie, Colin Farrell, huge names. But it debuted at the low end of projections. It's a tough reminder. Star power alone isn't a guarantee anymore. Not if the film doesn't feel like something you have to see in a theater, something special you can't get at home. Audiences are just way more selective now.
So what defines an event now? Seems like it splits between maybe director-driven events and franchise events.
I think that's a good way to put it. Like, next week we get Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another. The Brighter Path report flags this as like a major cinematic moment, sprawling, satirical, Leo DiCaprio, Sean Penn. It sounds kind of messy, chaotic, urgent, but that complexity, that ambition is exactly what makes it vital. It's guaranteed to spark conversation. That's a director-driven event.
And then the other end is James Cameron. Avatar, Fire and Ash, it's already projecting huge numbers.
Yeah, tier 1 baseline projections. Which is kind of nuts considering the main marketing push hasn't even really started. The model is to see Cameron and Avatar and automatically factor in this massive audience urgency. People just associate his name with that must-see theatrical experience. Once Disney unleashes the full marketing machine, yeah, it's expected to be the definition of a blockbuster event. It's not just a movie, it's perceived as a required cultural experience.
But maybe the most disruptive example, the one really changing the game, it's Taylor Swift.
Oh, absolutely. She's basically rewritten the playbook for an album launch. We're talking about the ecosystem artist here, the life of a showgirl. It's premiering in 2 weeks. not just streaming, but as a global theatrical event. And the projections, based purely on digital signals, social buzz, purchase intent, pre-sales, are over $50 million opening weekend.
50 million. How is that projection different from, say, a typical movies?
It's way more complex. It has to factor in everything she does simultaneously. The merch drops, the social media campaigns, the exclusive content only in theaters, all timed perfectly with the album. It turns the music launch itself into this massive, multi-platform spectacle. She's not just releasing an album, she's activating an entire ecosystem. Album, film, maybe future streaming merch. It's a cultural flywheel, as powerful as any studio's biggest franchise.
That's incredible. And it really highlights the difference compared to a more traditional marketing push, like for Universal's Gabby's Dollhouse movie.
Exactly. Gabby's is relying mostly on paid ads to drive its box office. Standard playbook, nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
But the data shows the consumer product buzz around it is, well, pretty muted compared to the organic, fan-fueled engine Swift creates. It's that difference between buying visibility and cultivating genuine, active momentum.
And speaking of consumer products, is the current movie slate translating into much retail action yet?
Not really for most titles right now.
Yeah.
The models are predicting the real surge comes later, closer to Thanksgiving. That's when Wicked for Good lands. You get the movie buzz converging with peak holiday shopping. That's when you expect the licensing programs to really pay off. That holiday window is still key for turning movie hype into actual product sales.
Got it. And one last note. There's buzz around Tron, errors, but the early tracking.
Yeah, it's currently tracking a bit below the, frankly, very ambitious expectations set for it. There's still time to build heat, obviously, but it's a good reminder that even beloved legacy IP needs really sharp execution. You have to sell the urgency of seeing it now, especially when the bar for event is being set so high by people like Cameron and phenomena like Swift. Okay, so if we're talking about sheer scale market control, you just have to look at Netflix. The Brighter Path data really paints a picture of dominance, both with new hits and, interestingly, how they're making sports work.
Let's start with the monster hit, Wednesday. The numbers are just wild.
Absolutely unprecedented, really. Season 2, Part 2 pulled in, 116 million hours viewed last week. And just as the models predicted, it cracked the all-time top 10 lists for English shows. So now it's up there with Season 1, which is still holding #1. It's not just a hit show, it's this enduring cultural force they've built.
How does that even happen, having both Season 1 and Season 2, Part 2 in the top 10 at the same time? What does the data suggest there?
It points to this really powerful cycle. The new season drops, and you get the diehard fans watching immediately. But all the buzz also brings in new viewers or people who maybe missed Season 1. So they jump in and binge the old season while the new one's hot. It creates this compounding effect. The new stuff actually drives engagement back to the older catalog. Really smart.
And that event strategy isn't just for shows. They made a huge splash in live sports, too.
Oh, yeah. The Canelo versus Crawford fight. That was a statement piece. Setting a record most viewed men's championship fight of the century.
Yeah.
It just proves they can take these massive events, things usually locked behind pay-per-view or on specific sports networks, and turn them into huge streaming moments. They're seriously challenging the old guard there.
And film-wise, their library just seems to dominate the conversation. 8 of the top 10 movies last week.
That level of control is really strategic. It shows how effectively they use licensing and their own originals, plus constant promotion on the platform itself, to just be the default place people go for movies. Whether it's something new or an older favorite, they usually have it. It makes it incredibly tough for competitors to get consistent traction with their own movie offerings.
But outside of Netflix, we are seeing some really interesting stories of staying power, right? Titles that just keep performing.
Totally. K-pop Demon Hunters is a great example, held onto the global #1 spot for film. But what's really impressive, it just broke a record set by the Mitchells versus the Machines back in 2021. Demon Hunters logged 930 million minutes viewed in its 10th week. That's huge.
930 million minutes in week 10. That sounds astronomical compared to just a few years ago. What changed?
I think it shows that these global, visually strong genre hits, especially ones with super active fan bases online, they can just sustain momentum way longer now. Back in 2021, Mitchell's felt like it lasted forever. Now, K-pop Demon Hunters shows that a really shareable global hit, fueled by social media buzz worldwide, can keep pulling in massive viewing numbers long after you'd expect it to decay.
And there are other examples of shows building steady momentum, not just exploding overnight.
For sure. Look at Miranda Cosgrove's The Wrong Paris. It's been quietly climbing, building buzz. Now it's top 10 in over 70 countries. It shows that word of mouth and maybe targeted local pushes still work. And he's still the anchors, right? Like SpongeBob SquarePants on Paramount. He's incredibly resilient, keeps performing, holds down their kids' strategy alongside newer stuff like Sullivan's Crossing.
And getting these streaming debuts right relies on good prediction, good modeling.
Exactly. Pixar's Elio is a perfect example. The data accurately predicted its theatrical run, which then allowed for really precise modeling for its Disney Plus debut. And bam, it landed just as expected. #1 film in over 50 countries almost immediately after hitting the platform midweek. That kind of predictability, that's the sign of really strong data work and IP management.
Which kind of brings us back to the Emmys again. That idea of older shows getting a second life, climbing back up the charts.
Yeah, the Emmy bump driving catalog viewing is clear as day. HBO Max saw Task jump to its #1 series worldwide, mostly thanks to that post-Emmy attention. Same with Only Murders in the Building popping back up on Hulu and Disney Plus, saying. These aren't new shows. They're getting a boost from that external validation. If we connect this to the bigger picture, what we're seeing is that critical acclaim translates instantly into renewed catalog demand, even months or years later. The Emmy coverage acts as this global reminder, and if the platform makes it easy to find those shows, people dive back in. The whole cycle just keeps going. The data just shows us where the audience is heading next, based on whatever's buzzing culturally right now.
So the big lesson seems to be that attention needs to be spread, amplified. And in the world of intellectual property, IP, that often happens through partnerships, right? Collaborations. It's less about guarding your characters and more about letting them play in new sandboxes.
Exactly. These external partnerships are pretty much essential now. They keep the IP alive, reach totally new audiences, and crucially, turn someone who just vaguely knows a character into someone who actually buys something. And nostalgia. Still the best way to make that happen.
Like turning IP into wearable memory triggers. Tell us about that Levi's collab.
Right, so Levi's is doing a big thing for Toy Story's 30th anniversary. It's not just slapping characters on shirts. It's a whole denim-focused, fashion-forward collection. It takes that childhood memory Woody Jessie and weaves it into clothes for adults. It leverages that deep emotional connection to create something people will actually wear and value, reminding them of that original feeling.
And some collabs are just a natural fit, like connecting IP with something people actually need.
Yeah, The Honest Company partnering with Disney on baby care stuff. Mickey, Winnie the Pooh. It's genius. You take a brand known for being clean and trustworthy, and you pair it with characters that basically define early childhood. For parents who grew up with Disney, it creates this instant emotional connection and trust for a product they need anyway. The IP does half the selling.
And gaming is still maybe the main stage for old IP to find new kids.
Oh, absolutely. Fortnite is the masterclass here. Their latest event, Power Rangers. Dino Megazord, new skins, quests. They just keep using the game as this constantly changing cultural playground. Old IPs get refreshed, find a whole new generation, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, who might never have seen the original show otherwise.
It's not just cartoon characters either. Even fancy car brands are getting in on this.
Yeah, PUBG Mobile, teaming up with Lotus, dropping the Emra and Amaya cars into the game. It shows how brands like Lotus are trying to connect with younger people who aren't driving yet. Let them experience the car digitally, get familiar with the brand, build that aspiration early on. It bypasses the whole intimidating showroom thing.
Smart. Then there's the seasonal stuff, collectibles. Jones Soda going spooky with Marvel.
Yeah, the Marvel Zombie soda line. It's playful, it's limited edition for Halloween, and it proves you can take superheroes and stretch them into like a horror aesthetic without damaging the core brand. It's selling a fun, collectible moment tied to the season.
And collectibles can be everyday things too, like candy.
The Hershey's Kisses and Pokemon collab is perfect. Wrapping kisses in foils featuring all 151 original Pokemon. It turns basic candy into a trading card experience. The wrapper itself becomes the collectible. People trade them, share photos. It taps into that deep nostalgia, but also makes it social now. The packaging is the product, almost.
Wow. We're even seeing brands try to get into people's homes, like literally into their bedroom.
Yeah, Formula One partnering with Pottery Barn Kids and Teen. Racing-themed bedroom decor. That's a long-term play. You put the sports vibe right into a kid's personal space, build that familiarity, that aspiration. Early on, you're cultivating the fan of tomorrow, making F1 part of their world long before they might buy a ticket.
Okay, finally, let's look at studios basically reusing their own stuff, but strategically, based on what audiences want.
Right, IP recycling, but like smartly done. Prime Video sees the huge ongoing love for the Summer I Turned Pretty series, so what do? Turned it into a feature film. And the key, Getting Jenny Han, the original author, to write and direct and bringing the original stars back, that guarantees the fans will follow. It feels authentic.
And Disney's reaching back into the 2000s closet.
Yeah, Camp Rock 3 is happening. But they're smart about it. Jonas Brothers are back, but as executive producers, Demi Lovato to EP role, they use that original star power, that nostalgia hit, as an anchor to launch a new cast. The plot involves a competition to join the reunion tour. It cleverly bridges the gap between the original millennial Gen Z fans and a new generation.
And animation studios are leaning hard into current internet culture.
Oh yeah, look at Angry Birds Movie 3. They're adding YouTube megastar Mr. Beast and Salish Matter, who's huge with Gen Alpha, to the voice cast. That's a direct play for that creator-driven audience. Maximum visibility with the 10 to 14 crowd, and then they shifted the release date to December 23rd, 2026, right into that prime holiday movie window. Every single move there feels totally data-driven, aimed squarely at nailing that Gen Alpha market.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground, from, a single dress on a red carpet to massive global streaming hits. Whether it's Jenna Ortega's Givenchy look driving huge EMV, Taylor Swift projecting a $50 million plus opening for her film, or Wednesday locking down 2 spots in the all-time Netflix top 10. The main takeaway really seems to be that influence now is all about that ripple effect. Across platforms, across products, it's about conversion and speed.
Absolutely. The synthesis here, especially from the Brighter Path data, is that marketers can't just focus on launch day anymore. You have to plan for the day 2 narrative, the day 3 narrative, and beyond. What happens after the initial splash? Because the data shows everything matters. Controversy, fashion, awards, memes, they all drive attention and potentially conversion. Success isn't one-hit wonder. It's about building that whole ecosystem, being ready wherever your audience is searching or sharing or scrolling, and being ready to sell when they are.
Which brings us back to something we touched on that feels really important looking forward. That K-pop power, the Gen Alpha signal, like that Zigazoo poll picking Lisa.
Yeah, that Gen Alpha group, they are the future tastemakers, the future spenders. And when you see artists like Lisa having this immediate, massive commercial impact, turning an indie label like Liver Couture into a global name with one outfit, it just begs the question, right? For every major company out there, CPG, entertainment, whatever, who's going to be the first to really lean in, to harness that proven high-conversion K-pop influence strategically, to define what's cool for the next decade, not just borrow a star for a quick campaign, but truly integrate it? Because the data showing this powerful engine is just sitting there, ready. Who's going to turn the key?